What is going on with you and Gordon Ryan?
He's always been my enemy.
Gordon saved your life, right?
Practically.
Challenge Gordon Ryan to a $50,000 winner-take-all, 100K bet, and what happened? He left?
Me and Nicky Rod will compete again for sure, but it's going to be in a tournament where he gets no relevancy off my name.
And I end up breaking his foot in a toe hold.
He just ripped it as hard as he could, and my leg broke, and I was like, oh, well, I guess that's broke.
That broke him mentally.
So Gordon has accused me of both greasing.
He was definitely lotioned.
And using anabolic steroids in our competitions.
Merrick Health will cover an impromptu blood test, Nicky Rod, and I'll take a look and see if it looks natural.
Steroids are not illegal in Jiu-Jitsu.
I want you to do MMA. Man, you can make millions of monies.
I'm going to make millions of monies doing Jiu-Jitsu.
Without getting punched.
Without getting punched.
Nicky Rod has literally no money, so calling me out is the easiest way to actually make some money.
Winner of $1 million!
The first time in the history of the sport that a single athlete has ever been paid that much for one event.
Nicky Rod, I rode him once a month. That's absolutely it.
But Nicky Rod.
Whoa! 5 years earlier, that same man had never competed in jiu-jitsu. He was mixing paint at Home Depot.
You know, UFC is getting behind grappling. They probably want all of their athletes to be exclusive so they can only compete on the UFC.
This is the story of Nick Rodriguez.
Everybody wants a payday, right?
Special thanks to this video's sponsors, BJJ Notes and X Marshall. More about them later on. Nicholas Pete Rodriguez was born on August 30th, 1996 and grew up in Clayton, New Jersey, a small town in the south of the state, the kind of place that does not appear on many maps and is not particularly trying to. He started wrestling in 6th grade. Wrestling is a ruthless sport that tells you exactly where you stand. You cannot fake it. You're either good or you're not. And Nicky was good enough to compete seriously, good enough to care about his wrestling development, good enough to ask himself, just how far can I go with this? By the end of high school, he was getting closer to answering that question. He had won a district title and finished second in regionals. In his second year, he qualified for the New Jersey State Championships, but he did not place, which isn't a dramatic failure on his part. Thousands of wrestlers qualify for states every year, and most of them don't place. But he realized that it meant something. He saw a line that he couldn't cross. At an earlier point in high school, Nicky lost a wrestling match, but from his perspective, he didn't think that the other guy had better technique or that he managed to outwork him. No, the New Jersey native felt like he was outmuscled. The other guy was just stronger. That's why he won. That night, he went home and put on Pain and Gain, the Mark Wahlberg film about bodybuilders who refuse to accept the life they've been handed. And something in him clicked with the message right away. Since that day, he hasn't missed a single day of weightlifting, 7 days a week. That teenage experience still drives every single flex he does and every time the rash guard comes off after a big win. Using his newfound passion for going to the gym, he gained 50 pounds between his last high school match and his first college match at Ferrum, up in the mountains of southwestern Virginia. Division III wrestling with serious culture and serious commitment. His freshman year, he went 23-4 and placed 4th at the East Regional Championships. As he didn't qualify for the national tournament, he decided that this was it. 1 year at Ferrum, and he was done. He came home looking to pursue other paths. This part of the video is brought to you by the BJJ Notes app. Joseph Chen said not long ago that if you aren't tracking your progress, you can't know if you're improving. BJJ Notes is built just for that. Log all of your sessions, track techniques and rolls. Note what worked and what didn't. The more you use it, the clearer you see your strengths and, more importantly, your weaknesses. I've been using this app since 2024 and over 20,000 grapplers are already on there. It's free to start. There is a pro version for serious practitioners, and right now the annual plan is available at a promotional price for a limited time. Links are in the description. Download it free, check out the annual plan while the promo is still running, and use code CHRIS so they know that you came from here. Back in Jersey, Nicky signed with Wilhelmina Models, tried out for the Chippendales in Vegas, bounced at nightclubs on weekends, and mixed paint at Home Depot. It was clear he was just moving through these things, looking for something that would stick. For now, he would just keep busy and make money where he could. Many of his coworkers trained grappling. Some were wrestlers like Nicky, but others trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a grappling martial art built around taking opponents to the ground and submitting them with joint locks and chokes. The BJJ guys always bragged about choking the wrestlers out, saying that their art wasn't complete. One of his coworkers trained at a gym called South Jersey Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, run by a coach named Jay Regalbuto. Nicky was intrigued not only by the details, technicality, and physicality, but also the fact that it takes most people years just to become competent. Nicky Rod started going, looking to stay in shape for his modeling career. Despite Nicky starting his BJJ journey only as a way to exercise, as soon as he stepped on the mat, he felt that competition itch he had from wrestling. The need to dominate crept up on him very quickly. It wasn't even 2 weeks in before Regalbuto signed Nicky up for a local 230-pound advanced division bracket. Not only did he get gold there, but he also won the openweight division that same day with less than 2 weeks of training. His first coach, Jay Regalbuto, described watching him in the gym for the very first time. It was fascinating. He said that Nicky Rod knew how an arm lock and a knee bar worked. He just had no idea how to get to them. So he would grip the wrist or the ankle, propel his giant body at the shoulder or the hip, lock it up, and crank. The raw instinct of a wrestler and 220 pounds doing the work that technique was supposed to do. But Regalbuto knew where Nicky would fail, so he sent in his leg lock specialist. No matter how big, athletic, or spazzy you are, if you don't know how to escape a leg lock, you're done for. And that's exactly what happened to Nicky Rod. He got heel hooked repeatedly, over and over again. Any normal beginner would give up on the roll, but not our resident model. He just kept asking the guy to roll again, trying to figure out this black magic. His coach pointed out the fact that all the guys who made real money in the sport, they were all no-gi guys. They all competed without the traditional BJJ kimono, so Nicky Rod immediately threw his gi away. To this day, he has never competed in the gi, and right now he was preparing for something much bigger. Within 3 weeks of Nicky Rod walking through the door for the very first time, Regalbuto was talking to him about the ADCC trials. The ADCC Submission Wrestling World Championship is the most prestigious grappling tournament in the world. It runs every 2 years. To qualify, athletes compete at regional trials filled with career professionals and black belts who have trained their entire adult lives for this moment. The idea that a man with 3 weeks of training could even consider stepping on that stage is almost laughable to anyone who understands just how difficult that task would be. But Jay Regalbuto was serious. The trials were in October, just 4 months away. Nicky competed at the ADCC East Coast Trials. He made it to the semifinals and lost on points, earning him a bronze medal as a man with 6 months of training in a professional grappling trials event. On the podium, Regalbuto promoted him to blue belt. Blue belt is the first rank above white in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He had just placed 3rd in a national qualifier. In October of 2018, Nicky Rod had his first private lesson with Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan was 22 years old and already one of the most dominant submission grapplers on earth. He had won the ADCC World Championship the previous year, completely walking through a bracket of elite professionals with a level of control that observers had rarely seen. He was the product of a specific system built by a specific coach. That coach was John Danaher. Danaher is a philosopher who became a grappling coach. Over roughly a decade, out of the grappling room at Renzo Gracie Academy in Manhattan, he built a system, a specific, internally consistent approach to submission wrestling that was different from what any other coach in the sport thought. Out of that blue basement came Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin, Craig Jones, Nicky Ryan, and Ethan Krelenstein, people who had reshaped what elite grappling looked like. Gordon recognized immediately what was in front of him and invited Nicky Rod to train with the group that the sport had started calling the Danaher Death Squad. Nicky Rod had been doing jiu-jitsu for a few months, and yet he quit every job he had. Home Depot, the nightclub, the modeling work, everything. He went all in. He ran up $15,000 in credit card debt just to cover his life while he trained. A $15,000 bet that this was real and worth it. He was now inside the most effective grappling system ever assembled, training with the best of the best every day, in debt with no plan B. The sport found him. He approached it and burned every bridge behind him. Under Danaher's tutelage, he went into the North American West Coast trials in February of 2019 and found himself facing John Hansen in the final match, whom he beat using a rear naked choke. Nicky Rod was going to the ADCC World Stage, a blue belt with 8 months of training, was going to the 2019 ADCC World Championship in Anaheim, California to meet the plus 99 kilogram division, the heavyweights, the best big men grapplers in the world. Muhammad Ali is a 25-year-old Brazilian and the 2018 IBJJF World Champion in the super heavyweight division. He was a force to be reckoned with at the ADCC stage. Him and Nicky Rod battled with no points scored on either side. It was a 15-minute wrestling war, but Nicky was good at wrestling, so he upset the world champion. Next up was Orlando Sanchez, the Cuban tree stump, an American grappler with a story unlike anyone else in the bracket. He was a former addict who had hit 360 pounds and found his way out through jiu-jitsu, earning his black belt in just 4 years, one of the fastest promotions in American history. He had won the ADCC World Championship in 2015 and finished runner-up in 2017, a reigning former world champion of the very event they were both competing in. Nicky and Orlando had another wrestling war. The Jersey native quickly jumped on Orlando's back, and despite his notorious saying, "everything under the eyebrows is the neck," at the time, he wrongly thought that face cranks were illegal in ADCC, so he couldn't secure a finish and won on a negative point. The semi-final was Roberto Cyborg Abreu, a name that carries real weight in the sport. Cyborg had been competing in grappling since before most current professional grapplers had even started training. A multiple-time world champion across multiple promotions, 40 years old in 2019, and still one of the most dangerous men in the bracket. Roberto realized that the easiest path to victory was to use jiu-jitsu more than wrestling, so he began playing guard against the wrestler rather than staying on his feet. After 15 minutes of grappling and no points being scored, Roberto stood up and celebrated what he thought would be his victory, but the judges felt a different way and gave it to Nicky Rod. Roberto immediately protested loudly, argued the decision at the edge of the mat, and in a very rare act of open dissent, refused to compete in the bronze medal match. He believed he won. The judges didn't. 3 matches in, 3 wins, all by decision, not 1 point scored. A blue belt with under a year of training found his way to the final of the ADCC World Championship. One man stood between the wrestler and ADCC gold, Clayton Duarte. Clayton Duarte is a Brazilian training out of the most accomplished grappling program in the world. 21 years old in 2019, he had won the ADCC trials as a purple belt. He received his black belt from Andre Galvao on the podium at the IBJJF World Championship in June of 2018. He was a product of years of proper, methodical, world-class development. The final also went the distance, but Clayton won on points. He was just better than Nicky Rod that day. He was more complete, more technical, better prepared for the specific chess match of a 15-minute final against someone who had never played that game before. He used jiu-jitsu to beat the wrestler. On the podium, Regal Buto stepped forward and promoted Nicky Rod to purple belt, right there in front of the crowd at the Anaheim Convention Center. People began calling Nicky Rod the Black Belt Slayer, and the name stuck because it was accurate. He beat 3 high-level black belts as a blue belt on the biggest stage in grappling. It was an accurate descriptor, but the Black Belt Slayer had met his ceiling, Clayton Duarte, who beat him to claim the gold medal. A competitor like Nicky couldn't just let that go. For the time being, he used the money he made off his great run in the World Championships to pay off his credit card debt. The bet he placed on himself proved correct. In December of 2020, the entire Danaher Death Squad team relocated to Puerto Rico. Danaher, Gordon Ryan, Nicky Rod, Craig Jones, Nicky Ryan, Ethan Krellenstein were all forced to relocate, training in the heat and removed from everything else. Nicky Rod's results were uneven. Significant wins that confirmed his potential was real, but losses and inconsistencies raised questions about whether that potential was converting into real results. His first loss to Victor Hugo came at Third Coast Grappling in April of 2021, a decision in the semi-final after he beat Pedro Marinho to get there. Victor Hugo is a Brazilian from Fortaleza. He trains under the Ribeiro brothers. Saulo, and Shanji, two of the most decorated figures in the sport's history. 6'4", 255 pounds. His guard game is the thing that separates him. The ability to be dangerous from his back, to threaten consistently from underneath, and make his opponents pay for every single advance. This earned him the nickname of Big Man Flow, and it worked at the very top of the sport. Nicky Rod competed regularly on the UFC's Fight Pass Invitational events throughout his career. 9 appearances in total, more wins than anyone else in the series' history. The UFC fanbase took a liking to him due to his wrestling heavy and exciting style. He also recently signed with the UFC for grappling. Infamously, from 2027 onward, the contract could prevent him from competing at the ADCC World Championship while the deal is in effect. The ADCC is the sport's most prestigious event. Removing it from an athlete's options drew real criticism, and the criticism was fair. But that was a choice he made, knowing exactly what it could cost. At this moment, it is still unknown what this would lead to, so this is the only time this story is going to address that. Back to Puerto Rico and the DDS, suddenly, in July of 2021, it all abruptly ended. The Danaher Death Squad dissolved. The specifics of why are contested, personal, and not their stories to tell. What matters is the outcome of it though. Danaher and Gordon Ryan went in one direction, Nicky Rod, Greg Jones, Nicky Ryan, and Ethan Krellenstein went another. The structure that helped lead him to the ADCC final was now gone, but all the knowledge from it was still there, and a question arose from the BJJ community. What would these guys do without Danaher's leadership? B-Team Jiu-Jitsu opened in Austin, Texas, led by the same people who had broken off of the Danaher Death Squad. They found themselves running their own new gym in a new city built from what remained after the split, without a head coach. Instead, they chose to let everyone take part in teaching classes. They were very clear about how the gym would be ran. The B-Team guys knew what it took to be a world champion. They would train seriously and competitively. However, the culture and the gym atmosphere would be different from what they had come from, more relaxed and enjoyable. Their pro training sessions were more akin to workshops rather than usual top-down teaching methodologies. And in the same city, at a different gym, competing out of a different team, were John Danaher and Gordon Ryan. New Wave would be Danaher's new competitive team, and a lot of spots had opened for athletes to join their elite team, led by Danaher's expertise and Gordon Ryan's world champion leadership. The man who had recognized what Nicky Rod was after just 2 weeks of training and opened the door to the Danaher Death Squad was now seen as a heavyweight rival and a target for the #1 spot. The fans immediately recognized that this would be a rivalry for the ages, and luckily, they wouldn't need to wait that long to see the Clash of Titans. September 17th, 2022, the ADCC World Championship took place in Las Vegas at the Thomas & Mack Center. Nicky Rod was back on the biggest stage in grappling for the first time since Anaheim, representing his newly minted B team. He won his first 2 matches and reached the semifinals. His opponent there was Felipe Pena, the Sloth, a Brazilian black belt, multiple-time IBJJF World Champion, and one of the most accomplished heavyweight grapplers alive. Pena and Gordon Ryan had fought 4 times and split the rivalry down the middle. Their matches had defined the division for years, so beating Pena to reach an ADCC final is a genuine competitive statement, and Nicky Rod did just that. He defeated Pena in the semi-final, passing the Brazilian's guard, which is no small feat. In the final, Gordon Ryan awaited him. After dominating his side of the bracket, he was eager to get his hands on Nicky and prove that what him and the B team did was a huge mistake. 3 years since Anaheim, 3 years since the DDS, and standing across the mat was the man who made it all possible in the first place. Gordon Ryan submitted Nicky Rod in just 2 minutes and 15 seconds. An outside heel hook. Whatever Nicky Rod had prepared, it was not enough that night. The loss was clean, fast, and happened at the biggest stage in submission grappling. This kind of loss, for a true competitor like Nicky, eats at you for a long time and leaves you itching to try again. But Nicky Rod wouldn't have to wait long for his desired match. 3 months later, in December of 2022, they met again at the UFC's Fight Pass Invitational Invitational 3, Nicky Rod stepped in as a late replacement. It was a 20-minute submission-only match. Ryan worked from his guard throughout regulation, hunting for leg attacks. Nicky Rod was cautious on top, protecting his legs and trying to pass. However, at one point, Ryan achieved a very deep leg entanglement, a 50-50 position where both athletes had access to leg attacks on each other, looking to heel hook Nicky as he had done before. But this time, Nicky Rod countered with a powerful toe hold, so powerful in fact that Ryan's ankle audibly popped, which forced Ryan to abandon his attack and pull out of the entanglement. Their match went to overtime, then to triple overtime. Ryan won by fastest escape. Nicky Rod had gone from tapping in just 2 minutes to a leg attack to using one of his own leg attacks to do a lot of damage to Gordon Ryan's ankle in just 2 months. At the post-match press conference, Gordon accused Nicky Rod of greasing, saying,
He was definitely lotioned, and the lotion came out, and I was like, yeah, but between the stalling and the fact that he was lotioned, there was just no way I was going to be able to hold on to him.
What he claimed was that Nicky Rod had deliberately coated his body to make submissions harder to finish. The accusation was public and clearly broadcasted to everyone following the sport. The press conference started something that would follow Nicky Rod for a very long time. In February of 2023, Gordon Ryan was scheduled to face Felipe Pena for the 4th time at Who's Number 1, but Gordon was forced to withdraw due to sickness 2 days before the match, so they called in Nicky Rod as a late replacement. He took the match on just 2 days' notice. He had a grueling 30-minute back and forth with Pena, but 7 minutes in, Pena turned to the referee and mimed a greasing gesture. The referee paused the match and wiped Nicky Rod. A few minutes later, the officials paused the match again and wiped both competitors. Nicky Rod was frustrated with this. His style was based on applying pressure and tiring the opponent out. Meanwhile, Pena was resting and recovering during this pause. Nicky Rod lost the unanimous decision. Some cheered, a lot booed, but after the final buzzer, Pena showed respect to the Jersey native and called him a true warrior for stepping up on such short notice. Victor Hugo was still waiting, and they met at WNO 22 in February of 2024. It was their 3rd meeting, but Hugo ran it from the start. His guard created problems that compounded over 15 minutes. He threatened submissions from his back constantly, making Nicky work for everything, and punished the mistakes. Nicky Rod couldn't solve the guard, and Hugo won unanimously. 3 meetings, 3 losses. Hitting a 3rd ceiling as a dedicated and competitive athlete like Nicky Rod truly gets under your skin like nothing else can. Kainan Duarte from 2019, Victor Hugo since 2021, and Gordon Ryan. The record showed exactly where those 3 men stood relative to him in the rankings. He appeared on the Mark Bell Power Project podcast and addressed the greasing accusations without diplomacy, sending shots right back saying,
that's his excuse. He was like, oh, he put lotion on me. It's like, first of all, no, never cheated a fin bit. And then on top of that, I'm a natural athlete going against an enhanced athlete, and you still need excuses.
But what do you think makes him good?
I mean, his biggest thing is steroids.
Gordon Ryan has spoken out openly about his use of performance enhancers, steroids specifically. He never hid it from the public. He competes in a sport that does not test for PEDs, imposes no sanctions, and has no regulatory body with authority to enforce anything. He just made a choice for himself and his legacy. Nicky Rod was not revealing any groundbreaking information. He just reiterated something that Ryan himself had already stated publicly. Gordon Ryan responded explosively on Instagram, posting a lot of stories and a lot of screenshots of private conversations and details between himself and Nicky Rod. The drama was so public that the YouTuber Derek from More Plates More Dates, who's a well-known, credible figure in the performance enhancement community, trusted on both sides of the PED debate, made an offer to test Nicky Rod for steroids as a neutral party, and Nicky agreed. What the results showed was shocking to some and unsurprising for others. Nicky Rod was clean. He was a natural athlete. What they did discover was his dangerously high cholesterol. Nicky took this opportunity to challenge Gordon Ryan to a USADA tested match, the same anti-doping standard used by UFC fighters and Olympic athletes. He said it publicly at a Fight Pass Invitational event with a microphone in hand. Let's both pass USADA tests before and after competition. Pretty fair, right? Ryan responded
Steroids are not illegal in jiu-jitsu.
and declined the match. Nicky Rod's Natty King identity emerged from all of this, an accusation he denied and disproved with a credible source. In a sport where the PED landscape had become one of the loudest and most uncomfortable ongoing conversations, he had firmly put himself on one side of it. But somewhere in Austin, Craig Jones was planning something that would change the jiu-jitsu landscape forever. The Craig Jones Invitational Tournament offered a prize that had never existed before in submission grappling: $1 million for winning a single weight division at a single event. Craig showed that the money was real, and despite his Joker-esque personality, this time he was serious. The best submission grapplers in the world showed up because you cannot refuse when the prize is $1 million. In the over 80 kilogram division, Nicky Rod and Victor Hugo were both in on either side of the bracket, setting up their epic fourth battle. What a movie-like run it would be for Nicky Rod to defeat his rival and earn $1 million to do so. But there was an Australian character who had a different idea of where the movie would go. Lucas Kennard was Victor Hugo's opening matchup. At the time, nobody knew who he was. All he had done up to that point was win the Australasia ADCC trials, which was impressive, but not shocking. What was shocking, however, was when Victor Hugo tapped to an inside heel hook just 1 minute into their match. The biggest upset at CGI 1 was Kennard's submission over Hugo. Nicky Rod's rival was gone before he even had the chance to avenge his losses. Nicky Rod's own first match was against Max Jimenez, a massive heavyweight with a 57-pound weight advantage over him. It went to the second round where Nicky Rod took the back and choked him out using a rear naked choke. The quarterfinal was Owen Livesey, another heavyweight, another physical challenge. Nicky Rod wrestled him into the wall, rolled through to take the back, inserted his second hook in, and finished it in the first round, rear naked choke. The semifinal was Adam Bradley. This one took longer, the full 3 rounds. Bradley defended everything and stayed composed. Nicky Rod got to the back, slapped the body triangle on, and strangled him out, rear naked choke. The final was Philippe Andrew, the same man he had beaten in the ADCC 2022 semifinal. Andrew dropped to his guard immediately. Nicky Rod passed, got to the back, and finished him in 1 minute and 32 seconds. Rear naked choke. 4 matches, 4 rear naked chokes. Every single finish was the exact same way. When the last match was done and the arena erupted, something that had never happened before in the history of this sport occurred. Nicky Rod became the first person in the history of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and submission grappling as a professional sport to win $1 million at a single event. Throughout the entire event, Nicky maintained full composure, meditating between rounds, never showing any sign of emotion as the job wasn't done yet. But once the briefcase was in his hands, the rash guard came off, and so did all of the built-up emotions over the course of the 2-day event. When Nicky was asked about doing MMA, he replied,
I want you to do MMA. Man, you can make millions of monies.
I'm gonna make millions of monies doing jiu-jitsu
without getting punched.
Without getting punched.
The guy who mixed paint at Home Depot was now Jiu-Jitsu's first millionaire, Nicky Rod, the $1 million grappler. Despite the amazing paycheck, something ate at him as a real competitor, Victor Hugo. Nicky missed his chance to get his rematch, but his stock had risen, so their 4th match was quickly booked. 7 months after the million, Nicky Rod was at the peak of his popularity and his grappling skills. At UFC's Fight Pass Invitational 10, in overtime, Victor Hugo countered Nicky's takedown attempt, spun around to his back, took the body triangle, wrapped the neck, and choked him out, the first submission in 4 matches. The previous 3 had all gone to decision, with Hugo winning clearly but never finishing Nicky Rod. This time he found the submission. This was a ceiling that Nicky Rod couldn't overcome yet, but there was another one, the original ceiling. Nicky Rod versus Kaynan Duarte. 6 years since their 2019 ADCC finals match. 6 years since their fight to win match where Kaynan heel hooked Nicky. In the time between 2019 and 2025, Kaynan Duarte had been extremely active and successful. He had become a 4-time ADCC world champion, winning in 2019, 2022, and then in 2024, where he took both his division and the open weight in the same weekend, submitting 7 of his 8 opponents along the way. By 2025, he was considered, without much argument, one of the best heavyweight grapplers who had ever lived. Their match began. Kainan won the first wrestling exchange, got on top and took Nicky's back, showcasing strong early control. In these opening moments, it looked exactly like the pattern that had played out twice before, but Nicky fought back up on his feet and quickly returned a takedown of his own, forcing his way to mount 7 minutes into the match. In submission grappling, the mount, sitting on your opponent's chest and controlling them from above, is one of the most dominant positions available. The person on top threatens constantly. The neck, the arms, back takes. The person underneath has no offensive options and very limited ability to defend everything at once. Good grapplers spend entire matches trying to reach the mount. Nicky Rod spent 9 minutes there, hunting the arms, forcing Kainan to defend everything. Kainan defended and survived, but he could not escape. All 3 judges scored it for Nicky Rod, unanimous and undeniable. 6 years prior, Nicky had reached the ceiling. He had won $1 million with it still there. He had proved that he was clean with it still there. He had built a team, an identity, and a career. All of it with that one result sitting unresolved in his record. April of 2025, he broke that ceiling. As Gordon retired, Nicky only had one ceiling left, but for the time being, he had to focus on something else. The second Craig Jones Invitational arrived a year after the first one. This one was different though. 8 teams. What wasn't different was the prize money for the winning team. To understand what the final meant, we have to understand the 2 teams. New Wave, ran by John Danaher and Gordon Ryan, versus B Team, ran by Craig Jones, Nicky Rod, Nicky Ryan, and Ethan Krellinston, both built in Austin. 2 teams from the same origin, the same blue basement, the same system, and the same history. Now on opposite sides of the biggest team event in the sport's history. A win here would prove that the decision the winner made was the right one. For New Wave, it would mean that John Danaher's systems were absolute, necessary for the highest level of competition. But for B Team, it would mean the exact opposite. It would mean that their group-focused approach was better. Both teams won their semi-final matches and met in the final. The format was 5 matches between the teams, 1 athlete per weight class, 1 8-minute round. If neither athlete submits the other, both are eliminated and the match goes to the judges to be scored. The team with most submissions or the highest total points after all 5 matches takes the $1 million. The system that built Nicky Rod and the founders of B Team now stood across the mat, looking to prove their superiority, coached by the man who built the system. The first match ended in a draw, double elimination, no winner. The second match, same. The third match, same. The fourth match, same. 4 matches passed with no individual winners. A perfect tie. Hours of competition across 2 days. And after all of it, it was equal. With 1 match left, the team whose athlete wins the round takes the $1 million. But B Team had been saving their $1 million grappler for just that occasion. New Wave's man was Luke Griffith, a South African grappler who had competed and won at the highest levels of the sport, who had beaten Victor Hugo earlier that same year. Definitely no pushover. Before the match, Nicky Rod was stoic and calm. Despite the arena around him being deafeningly loud, he was there on a mission. 8 minutes to decide who'd take the $1 million prize. Nicky Rod pushed from the start. He wrestled Luke down to the ground using his signature body lock and right away passed his guard, looking for submissions without recklessness. Griffith defended well and kept his composure, survived the full 8 minutes without being submitted. It was a draw, so to find a winner, it went to the judges. All 3 judges scored it 10-8 for the winner, Nicky Rod. Unanimously, B Team won the $1 million. The result was very controversial. Everyone had an opinion on it. Some said that this was the right decision, others thought it was wrong. It's a poetic conclusion that no team could dominate the other. There was no clear winner. but the results stood, and factually, Nicky Rodriguez, the man who worked at Home Depot before he found himself the black belt slayer, the Natty King, the $1 million grappler, was the deciding vote in the biggest team grappling event ever held against the team coached by the man who built him and won his team another $1 million. Victor Hugo is still out there, 0-4, and the most recent loss was the worst one. That part of the story has no resolution. It keeps going because the sport keeps going. Some rivalries resolve, others just continue. The sport almost missed him. He was not actively seeking it out. He found it by pure chance. But with the help of people around him, he made it above and beyond what anyone thought he could, besides himself. Nicky Rod's lesson to us all is easy to miss because it happened before anything notable occurred. He quit every job he had. He ran up $15,000 of credit card debt. He did this before he had a single professional win, before any of the results that would eventually justify that decision. Most people wait for evidence before they commit. He committed and then went and got the evidence. That is not confidence in the motivational speech kind of sense. It is a specific kind of clarity about what you are capable of that most people never find, and that fewer still act when they do. Nicky Rod is 28 years old, still competing, still clean, still the man who said no to the thing most of the people in the sport said yes to, and then proved to the public that he didn't need it. The black belt slayer, the Natty King, the first BJJ millionaire, still winning. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember that liking and subscribing helps out creators a ton. I hope you liked Nicky Rod's story, and before I let you go, I have a question for you. Victor Hugo is 4-0 against him. Do you think Nicky Rod will ever be able to solve that problem? Let me know down in the comments. I want to issue a special thanks to my sponsors and Patreon supporter Rob Lawrence. The link to all of these things can be found in the description. This video is sponsored by X Martial. They make high quality martial arts clothing with some genuinely unique designs. The kind of stuff that gets you comments in the training room. If that's not your style, they have cleaner, more toned down options too. Something for everyone. Use code ChrisXBJJ at checkout for a 50% discount off everything in store, and find them at xmartial.com or the top link in the description.